Jump off that exhausting hamster wheel and into balanced living with Dr. Marissa.
Promise you joy in the mystery.
Dr. Marissa, also known as the Asian Oprah. Her mission, to be a beneficial presence on the planet. Her purpose, to be your personal advocate to live, laugh, love, learn. Her life motto, don't die wondering. Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Pay.
And welcome. You are tuned into my weekly talk radio TV show called Take My Advice. I'm Not Using It. Get balanced and get happy with Dr. Marissa every Tuesday at naturally high noon, broadcasting out of Burbank, California with my studio UBN Go, and then playing every Saturday at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on my CNBC NBC News Radio channel, KCAA, and that's AM 1050, FM 102.3, FM 106.5, and on demand all the time on iHeartRadio. And this is a show about hope and happiness. So there's no gossip, no scandal, and no K words, no Kardashian talk, no Kanye talk, because I want you to focus on your own reality show and how you can be happy 88% of the time. And I didn't say why 88%, not 100%, because if you're 100% happy, you're dead. We don't want dead people walking. So 88, I know you thought I was Swedish, but 8 is a lucky number in Chinese, which I am. And double 8 means that happiness is your double good fortune. So that's what we are all about. And I have guests and topics all the time for that end. And because of what's been going on after COVID, the first virus, that's a physical virus. The second virus is racism. I thought I would have a special series called It's Not Black and White, or Is It? So that series started with my satellite sister, Akuyo Graham, out of Agape International Spiritual Center, followed by the incomparable Jane Elliott, who's 86 and continuing to fight racism. She calls white people faded black people. If you missed her show, go to my free subscribe YouTube. She was on Jimmy Fallon last month and Red Table Talk last year, and an amazing show. And then equally amazing, I've had my guest last week, T.M. Garret, and he talks as little as I do. So we had to do a part 2 to his interview because we didn't get through his story. And T.M. Garret is back today. He is a former Neo-Nazi and KKK leader in Europe who left hate groups and extremist ideology behind in 2002 and is now a German-American human rights and interfaith activist against hatred and anti-Semitism. So without further ado, please come and welcome back to my studio, T.M. Garret. All righty, TM, welcome back. And I'm glad that you were able to follow up. I'm going to do a quick, let's see. We talked about your life in Europe and that you were, what was the title you said that you were the Grand Master? Is that what the?
It was the Grand Dragon, which is in the US, the state leader. In other countries, it's the country leader.
Right. And you did all kinds of hate stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about that and beating up Turkish people or provoking them, and to have your ability to say it was self-defense. And then had your turning point, and that was staying in a home, a Turkish landlord, and he shocked you into love. Well, on the way to love, out of hate. Let's start with that, because we were talking about at what point is your road of Damascus. So I think that was probably the beginning of that. And then take over from there. You were, highlights, because I know you're going to be talking the rest of this. So I'm going to get my words in now. So then you were, you decided to retire, right? Germany was getting tough.
That's correct.
On any kind of hate. because of what happened with Hitler. So you retired and then moved to Memphis, Tennessee, which is very different than Germany. And TM just told me that he's going to have Fox in his studio today because it's International Peace Week. Is that what it is?
No, it is Nonviolence Week all across the U.S., also here in Memphis.
Right. So
a week of nonviolence, correct.
So does that blow your mind? Like how you're a grand dragon of a hate group for Europe, and now you're being interviewed for peace and nonviolence. Are there mornings you wake up and go, what the fork just happened?
I sometimes have these, especially being recognized. You know, I do a lot of talks. I do a lot of TV interviews. So I've been on every station in the Memphis metro area before. Whenever I go do talks in universities or synagogues or churches or whatever it is, I usually have some sort of newspaper coverage or TV coverage as well. So I'm kind of used to that. But I'm just a normal person. When I wake up, I just think sometimes, okay, hold on, I've got 2 interviews lined up today and a talk, and another work too. So that seems to be unreal sometimes, but this week it's a little bit more special because number one, it's home. You know, I live in the Memphis metro area, a little bit 40 minutes outside of Memphis in the south, in North Mississippi. But being recognized at home feels different than when I go to New York. I'm a stranger there, where I'm coming to New York, and that's much more interesting than the regular guy from home. Mm-hmm. And for some time, I didn't get much covered here in Memphis, actually, only when I went somewhere else. And 2 years ago, I started the Memphis Peace Conference, which was already integrated in the Peace Week, in the Week of Nonviolence. They happily recommended going there. And last week, my event was first time officially part of Nonviolence Week.
Beautiful.
And this year, like 2 months ago, the organizers asked me if I want to help be one of the organizers of this week. And during one of the first meetings, they also asked me, well, Tim, why don't you tell your story and how it affects your life and your teachings, actually, your mission? What is your mission? What are you telling people? How to overcome hate? And that felt really special already. Wow, I'm getting recognized by local activists to be part of this. And then, of course, the TV coverage, it's just special because I'm trying to do something good and I'm not lying. I'm not doing it for TV or whatever, but being recognized, mm-hmm. It feels good because it shows me I'm on the right way.
Right.
And I can reach more people with my message, you know?
Do you ever feel like you're atoning for all the hate that you did before?
Absolutely. That is part of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's also self-therapeutic, you know, because there's a lot of shame and self-hatred, toxic shame, you know, and mm-hmm. guilt and all these things that is self-therapeutic to talk about it, you know, but also have people telling you, especially if it's people, non-white people or people that used to be my enemies, and they tell me, TM, don't beat yourself up over that. Mm-hmm. You're doing something good now, you know, and that feels good, you know, that helps me going and forgive myself for what I did and use the positivity that I have for what I do now.
Yeah, absolutely. So we left off your story. You moved to Mississippi and you actually wanted to run away, right? That was the original intent, to leave all that behind. So you settled in Mississippi with 3 kids, right?
No, that is not correct. My kids,
they didn't come. Okay.
To explain that, we talked last time for everybody who hasn't listened to it. Getting out of these hate groups with my back then family, with my ex-wife and my 3 kids, we relocated and moved in that house. And the other apartment was the Turkish Muslim living, who started the first conversion, you know, that made my hate crumble. And when that happened afterwards, that's when my journey began. You have 10 years when I pretended my past never happened and that I was just a normal guy. I'm not hateful. I'm not homophobic or Islamophobic anymore. I'm not racist anymore. I'm not anti-Semitic anymore. I'm just a normal guy trying to live my life. And that was also self-protection because I was afraid of judgment. I was afraid if people find out about my past, that they will turn their backs on me. Okay. Who wants to talk to a Nazi or to a former Nazi, you know? That's always a stigma that sticks on you. I can't get rid of it. It is what it is. And then 2012 in Germany, there were a couple incidents and I got a big coverage, not in a good way. It was my coming out as a former white supremacist, as a former neo-Nazi. And I was not in charge of the narrative. Somebody else took care of my coming out. And this is not good if you're not the master of the narrative.
Right.
And it was bad. It was really bad. I had reporters following me to my house and whatever. And America, for Germans, you have to understand after World War II that America, yes, they bombed, pardon the French, bombed the hell out of Germany, but helped Germany rise up again, helped Germany reform into something compassionate, anti-Nazi, that can atone, reflect on the anti-Semitism, everything, and make up for it. And so Americans had always had a great reputation, I would say, until the 90s. Because I grew up in Southwest Germany, and this was the part in Germany that was occupied by the USA. So we always had GIs around. There were always the barracks, you know, and we always had soldiers around. I was fascinated by that. I was fascinated by American movies. My favorite show ever was The Fall Guy, Lee Majors, you know. I thought it's great. It was my hero. And then English language music, that was just wow. And the rich uncle in America. And I really had that aunt in San Diego. she emigrated in 56. And the land of endless opportunities. I knew I wanted to be there at some point. That was my childhood dream. When all this happened in 2012, I was just like, that country has nothing to offer for me but judgment. And I was like, I'm making my dream come true. And I had a friend who had never had anything to do with the white supremacist movement, but with the music industry. And we were in touch since 2004. And I always was teasing and said, one day I will knock at your door in North Mississippi, you know? I said, sure, yeah, I know you will. And this was the time when I picked up the phone and I was looking for a place to settle. And it was a coincidence. It was Olive Branch, Mississippi. It's interesting that Olive Branch, the name of the town.
Oh, Olive Branch is the name of the town?
Where I moved first.
Wow.
That is also, it was a coincidence.
Yeah,
it was a bank issue. And I was like picking up the phone and my friend's name was Robert. And I was like, Robert, how far are you from Olive Branch? I was like, 40 minutes. I said, okay, I'm moving there. It was like, sure. Because I said it so often over the years.
Yeah.
And so we started talking and decided we open up a music recording studio because I was always in the music industry before.
Right. You used to write songs for the skinheads, right?
Right.
KKK. Right. That was music for hate, right? That was your specialty.
Unfortunately, yes. So this is one thing that haunts me, especially because I don't have the rights to that music. And even if so, it is a black market. That white supremacist movement doesn't care if you don't want them to put those songs out anymore. They don't care. They do it anyway. They don't care about copyrights or any legal stuff anyway. So I'm not in charge of the music that I put out there. Right. It's there. It's even on Spotify and Amazon, and I can't do anything. This is something that haunts me because this stuff is probably still recruiting young people in the movement, and there's nothing I could do. I could maybe do a long lawsuit. They could try to find who it is, and I can make myself a target. You know?
But TM, I want you to know something right now. What you are doing now, far beyond that music. It may recruit some, but what you're doing now, I want you to really hear this because I still hear a lot of the regret and shame. And honestly, I think what you're doing is magnificent. And I want to take this moment right now to give you Dr. Marissa's Beneficial Presence on the Planet Award. And that's not something I give to all my guests because I want you to really feel that what you're doing is more than atoning and that you don't have to carry that around anymore. There's nothing to prove. Everything happens for a reason. And your message as a former KKK is stronger than any music that you wrote before. Okay. Do you believe me?
I greatly appreciate your words. I believe you. I believe you.
Okay, good. All right.
It's just, if you have that in you, it's just hard to deal with yourself.
Of course. You know? And in
so
a way, yeah. And in a way, it's good because anyone who may say, oh, you're just doing this to whatever, right? To still stay in the leadership role or a limelight role, you know, shame on you for thinking that. So I think it's important that you have that remorse and regret, but not to be buried in it. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
But this is a hard way, you know, and I need to remind myself. And of course, it's nice if there's people like you that remind me, like, let's say, stop beating yourself up over
exactly.
But you know, let's go back to my story because we said we both talked just a little. To just maybe we can wrap it up this time.
Okay.
When I moved to Memphis, you know, about almost 70% African American population, I didn't even think about that. You know, Olive Branch, Mississippi is a suburb of Memphis. Mm-hmm. Memphis is on the Tennessee-Mississippi state line. And I moved there, and I didn't even know that it was so close. I realized, oh wow, I'm pretty much in Memphis. Mm-hmm. So it was a little bit hard to dive into the Black community because I realized one thing that was really weird. So I met my current wife, when I was here, and so we started dating, and at some point we married. And I was asking her, because I always thought of America as the multicultural melting pot. Maybe I was thinking of LA or New York, I don't know. But then I was in Memphis in the South. And I was asking my wife, don't we have any Black friends? She was like, yeah, Randy and whatever. I said, no, he's a coworker, you know. You are friends with him, you know. You are good with him, but it's not a friend. They don't come to our house. We don't hang out with them. Why is that? And she was like, that's just what it is. And that answer was not good enough for me because I was thinking about that multicultural melting pot that I couldn't find. And I found this chosen segregation. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it was like 80% of the white people, 80% of the Black people just stayed among themselves. And you had the 10-20% crossover, but the most of them just
majority.
You had like segregation, not de jure, but de facto still. Mm-hmm. I was like, why are people doing that per choice? Why? It took a little bit through the music industry. I gained Black friends that I really could say they're friends. And I remember then it was weird. The first event where I was, my wife and I were the only white people. And that still felt weird, even though it was like 12, 13 years after I left hate groups. It was just weird because I wasn't used to it, you know?
Right.
So, and then after a while, I just realized, you know, like the Turkish Muslim landlord, like, well, he wears the same, he loves the same. Guess what? He likes chicken and fries just like me. And guess what? In the Black community, they worry the same, love the same, you know, and we all like chicken and fries. It's just a basic. We all like music and films. And I realized the commonalities. They're so much bigger and more than what is different. And I realized, well, no, we're actually one. We need to be one. Mm-hmm. And then in 2016, that's actually when my activism kicked off. Because until then, I still was like here in Memphis. I still didn't want to talk about it. Fear of rejection, you know? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Who wants to talk to the former Klan leader, you know? So
right.
I didn't hide it, mm-hmm. but I didn't voluntarily talk about it. Then what happened then, 2015, I had a great record label, great going. We had Grammy-nominated artists and so on. We had a physical distribution deal with the biggest independent record distributor in the US, based here in Memphis. It was going great. Until one person I worked, pardon my French, I must have pissed him off somehow. and he tipped off the local newspaper, the biggest in the Mid-South. Big circulation, and they were like, what, the former Klan leader lives here, let's see if he's still involved or whatever, and they wanted to do the big story. I tried to prevent it because I was like, hey, that's 13, 14 years old, why? It's not relevant. But they was like, no, and people have a right to know who lives here. I was like, okay. So I was on the front page of the biggest newspaper here on the Sunday edition that was free on the newsstands over and over. I didn't want to see it. I sent my wife that Sunday. I said, you go to Kroger, please, get some milk and get me a copy of that. I can't go to get it myself. I'm a little bit better now, because the message is a little bit different. And it was actually already online, and I was so afraid of it because also family, like my in-laws, they knew a little bit about it, but they were hoping it will never hit public,
Right.
And I remember I was actually, when I knew it would come out Sunday, my wife and I went to Memphis. We went to a bookshop, and I said, I need to call the one girl I'm working with. She was African American. I said, I need to tell her before she reads it in the newspaper. So we met at a coffee shop, and I told her, and it was a lot of crying, a lot of hugging, everything was good. And then we went to the bookshop, and all of a sudden the phone rings, and it was my wife's dad. And I was like, oh my God, it was like she was talking, and I realized, oh, the story already hit the internet. So it was already on Facebook and everything, just not a print version. And I was like, oh my God, what did they do? Because the reporter tried to make it more a bad story.
Right.
Couldn't find anything bad because I wasn't involved anymore.
Right.
But I was afraid. I was very afraid. And all of a sudden she hands me the phone. He wants to talk to you. And it was like a ticking hand grenade,
Yeah. Oops.
And he said, I remember this was very relieving for me because it was my coming out in the US,
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, I just read it, and I just wanted to tell you that I'm very proud of you and how you all handled this.
Oh.
I was like, where's my heart? I was looking for
Yeah.
you. It was great. It was great. And the next day, but I still couldn't go. I still told my wife, get the newspaper. And it was big. My face was big on it. I'm done with it.
Wow.
And something happened there. It was 2015. After that, I was waiting for bad reactions, bad feedback.
Yeah.
And the first person who contacted me was also a former Klan leader from the area who got out like a couple of years ago. He said, I applaud you. And I was like, man, yeah, I even had heard his name before. And I was like, wow, that's great. So I started talking about it more. Then I had other people contacting me and said, oh, you got out and I just got out too. Can you help me? And so it evolved in that.
Did you have any that hadn't gone out want to recruit you back or get mad at you?
That's usually not what they do, recruiting you back.
Okay.
There's sometimes with retaliation. So yes, there have been people who left hate groups, got killed before. But mostly if you are snitching or whatever, in this case, it's what the white supremacist movement or neo-Nazi movement often does, rather than retaliation, is talking you down. They will say, oh yeah, TM never was really in the movement, something like that, and try to make you really unimportant. So you lose that, people like me lose the voice that we have in public to talk about our experience. And they say, oh, he can't really talk about that. He's never really been in.
Got it.
So they try to do this. Of course, fortunately, it doesn't work. But I'm open. If somebody wants to talk to me, I will talk to them with no judgment because I've been there. I know where they are. It's a place of fear, and that fear is real, not substantial, but real. So I had those people
fear about what? Fear of differences. Fear of what?
Depending what group you're in, because all these groups play with fears, and whatever fear they feed. Fear of immigrants that flooded the country over the southern border.
Okay.
The KKK did in the 70s after the Vietnam War in Louisiana and in South Texas. The Klan was very strong because of all the Vietnamese fishers that settled there. That was their main target. Then you had on the East Coast, it was a lot against Jews and Black people. It depended where you are. In California, it was a lot against Central Americans and Mexicans.
Okay.
So
Okay.
depending where you are,
That's a great
they feed
point.
the fears. And right now
Mhm.
we have it too, the fear of
Yeah.
communism. And you
Yeah.
have the weirdest conspiracy theories that certain groups and people want to feed and bring all these things to create communism, destroy this country. It's always
Right,
about
right,
fear.
right, right.
And it
Well,
will always be taken away from you as a white person,
right.
mostly
It's
white, male, Christian, straight person.
It's
These
interesting
topics are
because
important.
I saw a commentary that this is the strategy for the current administration and the backlash with Black Lives Matter is it's again feeding on the fear that if we defund the police, then your home will be robbed and there's no repercussion or murder or rape or anything like that. So it's
Right.
interesting that you brought that up. It is a strategy. Fear is a strategy that is used. That's why we have the $1 billion prison industry. That's why we have,
Right.
racism in action. So sorry, I had to interject that. And if you've just
You're
tuned
absolutely correct.
in,
You're absolutely correct.
yeah. If
So,
you've just Okay. Sorry, I missed the station ID because I didn't want to interrupt you earlier. But if you're just tuned in and you're wondering who I'm talking to, and he looks like my guest last week, it's TM Garret back for part 2 to finish the story of how he retired as a KKK leader in Europe and now as a peace activist. You're tuned in to Take My Advice, I'm Not Using It. Get happy with Dr. Marissa. So now we're at you have former
2015, 16,
okay.
I have other people reaching out, asking for help, either how to get out or they just got out and don't know how to deal with their guilt, how do they reflect, how do they deal with society, their fears and everything. So I started working with them a little bit, but something else happened too. It was actually 2015, 16. I started working a little bit in the community, handing out stuff, a couple of food drives. Then 2016, it was so different for me. Every time when something happened to the Black community, of course I felt sorry, if somebody got killed. But all of a sudden I had these Black friends, And then 2016, Philando Castile got murdered by the police, and Elton Sterling got killed by the police, and that felt so different because I had Black friends who could tell me firsthand how they felt about it and how, hey, they're afraid to go out of the house. What happens if the police pulls them over, And that hit more home because I could relate more because I knew people who were afraid. It wasn't just somebody told me or somebody said, oh, that's just a lie, it's not happening. So that was very different. And I also had two that were also co-workers of mine, and we talked a lot about that stuff. I told them about my past, and I said, we need to do something because I had a fear. When all that happened, there were a lot of protests and a lot of white people chimed in too and tried to help and do something. But I told my two Black co-workers, I said, I have a fear. Now everybody goes out, is protesting, and in 2 weeks, everybody's back home and acts like they've done enough until the next Black man gets murdered. This is exactly what happened. And I said, we have to do something. That bridge, you could already see what's happening now. And I'm honest, it had nothing to do with Trump because I believe Trump was not even really in the race. And it was not even an issue at the time. It was just in general that a lot of white people all of a sudden were judging this, and Black people are judging this. And I said, man, that gap is getting bigger and bigger. We need to build bridges instead of making those gaps. Where could I do it better than in an area that was predominantly Black, where I see all that? And Memphis is it works weird. You have like the core is the music industry and everything. Then you have, and it's very liberal with the university and everything. Then you have around that on two sides, you have like the part of the Black Belt, and it's more the poor area while the rich white people live in East Memphis. And then you have the conservatives all around it. So that's a weird demographic there, how to deal with that. But I said, where else than there? Where else to bring those people together? And yes, even the white conservative that seems to be on the other side.
Right.
And this is where I started with my organization C.H.A.N.G.E,
which stands
No
for
Minister Omen,
C-H-
which stands for care, hope, awareness, need, give, and education. And education is at the end. If you see the logo, look it up. It has a period after each letter, just not at the end. I did it first because to have it symmetric, but it's also education never ends. That's why there's no period.
Interesting.
And this is the point, education. And this is what I'm trying to do, trying to bring people together.
Beautiful.
With an organization. And my whole exit program where I help people just grew into that organization as well, including the tattoo cover-up campaign, which we can talk about in a minute as well.
Yes, as soon as we've come back from break to thank the sponsor who is sponsoring today's show, we will talk about that and get into the tattoos and all of that. So if you'd like to be a sponsor of this show about hope and happiness, please do contact me at www.drmarissa.life for COVID affordable rates. We'll be back in 2 and 2. Peace in, peace out, world peace through inner peace. Yes, if you would like more happiness in your life, Zoom sessions are the answer for you. And I'll tell you more about that at the end of the show. But we have T.M. Garret today on Take My Advice, I'm Not Using It, Get Happy with Dr. Marissa. And T.M. is a great example of hope, because no matter how much hate you have in your life or been preaching for, it's never too late to turn to love. And now he has this great organization, which is actually the first thing that popped into my interest when I saw that. I said I had to have him on the show. So change takes people who want to change out of, hate groups. That's your
other extremist
gangs.
groups.
Okay, so
Wherever
it's not just okay. And then what do you do with them?
Well, it depends where they come from. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they reach out while being in there and say, I feel something is wrong. I feel I'm doing something wrong. I need somebody to talk to. I have done that. Sometimes it's people that just got out of gangs or come out of prison, been in prison gangs. They're full of tattoos. They have a problem with their tattoos. And I had tattoos too. I mean, you see, I still have tattoos, but they're fortunately all neutral tattoos. Back in the day, I had a couple movement tattoos that I had to cover up. And that is not the easiest thing. Number one, it costs money. Not everybody has money. You have a lot of former people who used to do substance abuse, drug addicts or whatever. So they deal with these problems. And I'm always, before those people pay a tattoo shop with the money for the light bill and then do something stupid to pay the light bill, why don't we offer that service for free? Or some just didn't have the money at all. Or judgment. When I went and I had a tattoo saying skinhead on my arm, and I went to a tattoo shop overseas in Germany, and the guy was looking at me like I was crazy. So I didn't even know, was he judging me because I had it, or was he judging me because I want to get rid of it? Maybe he was one. Maybe he was a right-wing extremist. I don't know.
Right.
And I didn't want to find out. All I wanted, make it go away. And this is also a thing. A tattoo artist is an artist. If you want a picture and you go to a painter, he will ask you, what do you want, right? You will tell him, I want this flower, this house, this portrait. You don't bring him a picture and say, make it go away, do you?
No.
He's an artist. The painter would have no idea what you're talking about. You bring it and you bring a picture and you say, can you paint, make it go away? And you say, what do you want over it? No.
Right. You can't take it away.
Make it go away.
Yeah.
And this is the same. If you have those tattoos, you don't care what you're getting. You don't really care. You just want it to be gone. Right. And many tattoo artists can play with that concept. They know that people come for cover-ups. Somebody may have the name of their ex-girlfriend or stuff like that, or the
husband.
or whatever it is, or something stupid they got when they were 16, or 18, depending.
Yeah. Can you
Well,
show
no,
one of yours that you had covered up without taking
I
your...
had,
Okay.
I had up here this Batman looking like thing,
Yep.
the letters skinhead,
Ah, that's right.
and I had this covered up, and I had a
What
spider
was
web
there?
here.
What was that you covered up there?
This here, it
Yeah.
was a spider web,
Okay. And then,
and I had a Celtic cross here, which is often associated with white power in that movement. And I had,
mhm,
this is the only thing that I haven't covered up, where I had laser removal, which was I had a pair of boots here, like skinhead boots, on my
ah,
hands. And I just decided I don't want anything on my hands.
got it.
It's just my thing. And I had
Right.
laser treatment there.
Right.
Um, and I remember when I had the spider web, and this is also something 2013. I was here in the US, and people asked me if I've been to prison, and I didn't get it. Like in these subcultures, a lot of punks have that too, skinheads have that too. Spider webs are often something that you just put on a shoulder or a knee or on a joint, like an elbow. And that's why I had it. And when I moved here, people kept asking me, "You been to prison?" I said, "No, but it's a prison tattoo." And
Ah,
I finally got the concept, and I'm like, "Oh my God, of course." And so I was running around with a long sleeve shirt in the summertime until I was so tired of it. And I said to my wife, "Okay, we have a couple $100. Let's go to a tattoo shop and see what they can do." And I went to different tattoo shops and I told them, "Okay, I'm on a budget. What can we do?"
mhm,
"Well, we
mhm,
don't know how long it takes. We will see." I said, well, this is what I have. And then also always the question, "What do you want?" I said, "I
mhm.
don't care. Make it go away. Make it black. I don't care." And they had a problem with it. No, decide what you want. And then I went to one tattoo shop with a guy who looked at it and said, "Oh yeah, I can put water there and this and this." He came up with the idea, and I told him, "Hey, I've got, I don't know what it was, $300, $500. I said, "I know you don't know how long it will take, but this is what I have." And he felt the suffering, he felt my pain that I
Oh,
had walking around with this judgment and pain. It's also me looking in the mirror, seeing that as a witness of my past. I wanted
symbol.
to be wrong.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
it was great. It was such a great day when he finished it. And we became friends. And after a while, it was in 2017, actually after Charlottesville, I asked him, "Look, I work with so many people now who are getting out of that movement, and they have the same problem that I had. Either no money, judgment, whatever. Why don't we offer that for free? People can come, no questions asked. We just cover it up." And they said, "Hey, but let's do gang tattoos as well, because there's such a gang problem here in the area." I said, "Yeah, whoever gets out of gangs too, same thing. We cover it up. No questions asked. Here you go." And it just took off. It's great. And now we call it erasing the hate movement. It took off, and there's many individual shops nationwide that are doing this on their own. Some were inspired by
Oh,
me, what we did. Some read it somewhere. Some started on their
that's
own, but they all
so
participate
awesome.
in this, like in up to New York, in Florida, in Georgia,
That's so
in
awesome.
Kentucky, in Tennessee, Alabama, in Alaska,
Mhm.
Washington, in we've got two in California now, and on it goes on. One in Ohio, one in Iowa.
That's
So people can
fabulous.
go there, and
Right.
those shops work independently. But we also have the website erasingthehate.org. You can go there if somebody hears that and has tattoos, and we can push you in the right direction. And there's shops
Beautiful.
all over the place. They do that for free. This is very important. So
Yes.
you see,
Erasing the hate.
all these things that I'm doing. So you realize on my journey since I got out, I took care of my former bias against Muslims. I
Mhm,
took care of my former bias against Black people.
mhm,
The one of the biggest ones, or maybe the biggest hatred I had, was against Jews. Now
mhm.
the thing is, in Germany there was no chance to talk to Jews because, unfortunately, historically, there's not many. The big Jewish population that there's now, they came from Russia now in the last 10, 20 years. When I grew up, there was almost none.
Mm.
Later, when I moved here, of course, I knew a couple, like in the music industry. But we never talked about being Jewish, not being Jewish, and hell no, not about my past. Because I thought if I tell a Jew about my past, the people
That
I
would be
vilify
it.
the most,
Mm-hmm.
they'll turn around.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what happened was 2018, I had a couple of students from Chapman University, Dutch College in Orange
Orange County. Mm-hmm.
County, doing their masterpiece, and they picked me as the subject. So they flew to Memphis, actually during MLK 50, and started filming. Just a 10-minute short film. That was the subject. And they had a little bit money left, so they flew me in to the premiere in LA, or Orange County. And they were like, well, we have the money to pay a couple extra nights in a hotel in downtown so you can explore the area. No, it was great, of course. So I went there, and a friend of mine said, hey, while you're there, go to the Museum of Tolerance.
Wow.
Have you ever heard of it? The
Oh,
Museum of
yes.
Tolerance?
I've been there
Okay.
several times.
Okay, so I had no idea what it is. And I was like,
Yes.
yeah, it was actually not even on the top of my list. Of course, I went to Hollywood. I went to Santa Monica to the beach and all these things,
Right.
And looked at the library because I know downtown there wasn't a lot of movies and stuff, these things, and the train station and so on.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I went to the Museum of Tolerance. A friend of mine also with the Simon Wiesenthal Center.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine knew the senior researcher, Rick Eaton, and she arranged that. So we had a private tour. It was just 3 people. And I went through that whole thing, the Civil Rights exhibit, which is mostly about America, then the Anne Frank exhibit, about Anne Frank, and then the Holocaust exhibit. And you have to understand, I've never been to a concentration camp. Not in school. Later, when I was in the movement, I was a Holocaust denier, so I didn't want to go because I felt like I'm going to something somebody built to tell us a lie. I'm not going there.
Wow.
See, when I was out of the movement, I felt I knew the Holocaust happened. I felt like I wasn't anti-Semite anymore. I felt like I don't have to go there because you don't have to prove it to me anymore. I know it happened. It was horrible. Must never happen again. So I still didn't go. So to this day, now it's on top of my list, but to this day I haven't been. So I was in this exhibit, and at the end telling the whole story, and they have that replica of a gas chamber at the end too. And you get in there, they make it really real, and at the end you get liberated by the Americans.
Yeah.
I got out there and I was like, whew, that was tough. That was heavy. Usually there's a lot of school classes in groups there. We were 3 people in there. That was intense. Wow.
Yeah.
And I remember telling Rick, who now is a good friend of mine, telling him, man, I realized I haven't reflected on my past as an anti-Semite at all. I just thought I'm okay after 18 years, or 16 at the time. I said, I need to work with you guys. I need to explore the Jewish community. So we tried to set something up. That was May 2018. And, they do a lot with schools and everything, but May, school is out for summer. Then we said, let's talk in September. We're hiring a new campus director. We go from there what we can do. And I said, okay. And then all of a sudden, the Tree of Life synagogue in Pittsburgh got attacked. 11 people were killed. And that was kind of the thing in end of October 2018 that kicked it off, because the new campus director was just working herself in and everything. I said, now we need to go. Now we do something. Let's bring you to a college that has a lot of Jewish students. And that was actually Northeastern in Boston. And I was speaking there at the Hillel House 2 days after Pittsburgh happened, or 3 days. And that also, whenever something happened to the Jewish community, I felt sorry, But this was different. I already had a couple of Jewish friends, not just a couple, so that hit more home. And then on the journey from then to the next year, I gained so many Jewish friends. I spent Jewish holidays with them. And then Poway happened. And that hit home, really, because I picked up the phone and called my Jewish friends. Are you guys okay? So, but I realized one thing. While I was expressing that Jewish community, well, they're just people. And the Jewish community is just as diverse as any other community. And guess what? They all like chicken and fries. They love music. They love the same.
That's got to be the name of your book. Your
Yeah,
Booker's
chicken
and
and fries.
sauce, chicken and fries.
Yeah.
And I have to
And
give you the 2-minute warning because I know that we want to get through everything, but I
it's never with me.
yeah, I'm getting to see that. Your wife is right. Um, but I just want to point out that here is a man who hated Turkish people and then was brought to a Turkish home where he got to know the, because this is a pattern, got to know him, and hate crumbles. Doesn't like Black people, moves to a Peace, Olive Branch, Mississippi, and gets to know the community and becomes an advocate for them. Hates and denies the Holocaust, doesn't hates Jews, and then goes to the Museum of Tolerance, and then is now an advocate for peace for that community.
And not only, I've been to the synagogue to for Rosh Hashanah, and will go Monday for Yom Kippur. So
Yes. So the formula here for from going from extreme XXX, literally swastika hate, to this compassion and love and activism, what's the key for anyone who's listening?
you just said it. Compassionate. Compassion is the key. The compassion, whenever I went to one of those communities, instead of getting hatred back or judgment from my past, compassion. Compassion, like, don't beat yourself up. What you told me earlier was the compassion. This is what tells me, yes, I'm on the right way. That will always help me be on the right way. It's always the compassion. Even if you think the other person doesn't deserve it, everybody deserves compassion. Even if you think you don't deserve it, yes, you deserve it. Even if at your lowest point in your life, you deserve compassion. Don't let anybody else tell you any different.
And there you have it. That is the best and most brilliant way to end this 2-part series with my fabulous guest, T.M. Garret. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing this. And the takeaway for me is, if we continue to hate, we cannot show the compassion, so that if you say, I hate white supremacists, then that's the door shut. But if
you can say I hate white supremacy, but not white supremacists, because this white supremacists are people, they're human beings. But you can hate white supremacy. You can dislike it. It's a shitty ideology. Sorry, pardon my French.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you so much. We'll have one last applause for T.M. Garret, who former KKK and now amazing peace activist. Go to his website, which is tmgarret.com, double R,
and one T.
One T, and also erasingthehate.org. Please donate there and support this very important work, and you will most likely see TM again. All right. So thank you so much for coming on. We're going to have a very quick balance bar. I have a whole host of people that I can't name who have tuned in today, but thank you so much. And welcome to the balance bar. This is where I invite you to join me. If you haven't seen, I have a new article out in the Palos Verdes Pulse, and there's a beautiful story behind that. With one of my former grad students, Dr. Liz Musel. If you're looking for some tips on how to stay balanced in this fluxed up time, the article in Medium published is also a good one for you. I forgot last week, we ran out of time. Happy birthday, dear Chloe May, my best big girl in the whole wide world. She just turned 23. Happy birthday to you. It's my tradition to wish my children happy birthday on my show. Mondays,
happy birthday.
Thank you. Mind Your Own Business with Dr. Marissa. Mondays at 10 on Facebook, 10:30 on Instagram. You can join me there. Please go sign up for my Happy Zine. because it's about to come out again, drmarissa.life. And October 25th, relaunching my children's book called Mommy, What Are Feelings? Details to Come. Thank you, Purple Planet Music, for your music. And please do support my new nonprofit, 8 Ways to Happiness. Every time you shop on Amazon, just go to Smile Amazon, look for 8 Ways to Happiness, and you can help teens and young adults who are temporarily unhappy find their happiness again. And keep it tuned to Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get happy with Dr. Marissa because you deserve it. Peace in, peace out. Have the best life ever. That's world peace through inner peace.